Have you ever stepped into a store with nothing but a few crumpled bills and a dream? What if, just as that dream was slipping through your fingers, someone walked in who could change everything? It was a rainy afternoon, the kind that made the world feel smaller, quieter. Inside a nearly empty hardware store, a 13-year-old boy named Ethan Carter stood frozen, clutching a wad of damp dollar bills. 42, that's all he had. But to him, it wasn't just money. It was hope. It was the last spark of a plan he'd been carefully nurturing for weeks, to buy his mom a gift. Not just any gift, the gift. A baking oven she'd talked about for years, but never bought for herself. Ethan had waited for the right moment, had saved every coin he could scrounge. But when he asked the cashier about the oven, his heart sank. "Sorry, kid. Someone called it in an hour ago. It's sold." The words hit like cold water. The shelf where the oven once sat looked cruelly empty. The dream was gone. Then the bell above the door jingled, and in stepped someone Ethan never expected to see, wearing a black hoodie and a baseball cap. Almost like he wanted to disappear into the rainy blur outside, was Justin Bieber. Yes, that Justin Bieber. For a second, Ethan didn't move. He didn't speak. How could he? Here he was, heartbroken, defeated, standing in a dusty aisle with his small, crumpled hopes. And one of the world's biggest stars had just walked in. But Justin didn't rush past him. He didn't nod politely and move on like most people would. He stopped, looked at Ethan, and asked the simplest question that would begin something extraordinary. "Hey kid, what's wrong?" What followed wasn't just a conversation. It was a spark, a connection. One rooted not in fame or charity, but in something far more rare, understanding. Because as it turned out, Justin wasn't just there to pick up supplies. He was there on a different kind of mission, one that neither of them could have seen coming. This is the story of a young boy with a dream, a mother with quiet strength, and a superstar with a heart bigger than anyone knew. A story that begins with $42 and a rainy day, and ends with a gift far greater than either of them imagined. So stay with us, because what you're about to witness might just restore your faith in the power of one moment, one act of kindness, and one unexpected friendship. And it all started right here. Ethan Carter wasn't the kind of kid who asked for much. He didn't have the latest sneakers, the flashiest gadgets, or even a smartphone like most kids his age. But what he had, what meant more to him than any screen or trending toy, was a mom who never let him feel like they were missing anything. Her name was Lily. She had warm eyes and tired hands, the kind of woman who hummed softly when she baked, even on days when the bills were tight and the fridge nearly empty. After Ethan's dad passed away when he was just 6, it had been just the two of them, stitching together a quiet life from second-hand furniture and first-rate love. She never complained, never crumbled, even when Ethan could see her hiding tears in the kitchen late at night. Every year, she made Ethan's birthday special. Cupcakes shaped like stars, scavenger hunts. Around their little apartment, handmade cards with glitter that stuck to everything. But her own birthday? She always brushed it off. "Just another Tuesday," she'd say, smiling tiredly. "Maybe we'll celebrate next year." But Ethan remembered. Every year, he remembered. He remembered how she lingered at the display window of a little kitchenware shop on Main Street, eyes lighting up at the sight of a sleek, compact baking oven. "That one," she whispered once, almost to herself. "It's small enough for our kitchen, and it's got temperature memory. That would help so much." That was the moment. The seed. Ethan decided this year her birthday would be different. He started collecting coins from couch cushions, doing odd jobs for neighbours, and skipping out on cafeteria snacks. Every penny went into a rusted cookie tin under his bed. He checked the price of the oven weekly, $49.95. He was so close. By the time her birthday rolled around, Ethan had scraped together $42. It wasn't everything, but it was close enough that he could talk his way through the rest. Or so he hoped. The morning of the plan, clouds rolled over town like a heavy curtain. Rain tapped on the windows of their tiny home as Ethan tugged on his hoodie, clutched the cookie tin, and whispered a quick lie to his mom. "Just going to the library, be back soon." She smiled, not suspecting a thing. The hardware store was nearly empty when he arrived. He scanned the aisles, heart pounding. There it was, the oven, exactly where he'd seen it last week, perched on a bottom shelf like it had been waiting, just for him. He ran to the counter, tin in hand, breath quick. Hi, I want to get the oven, the one in aisle 3. I have $42. The cashier, a lanky teenager scrolling through his phone, didn't even look up at first. Then, with a lazy glance toward the shelf, he frowned. "Sorry, kid. Someone called it in an hour ago. It's already sold." Ethan blinked, like maybe he'd misheard. "What?" "It's gone," the cashier shrugged. "They paid over the phone. We're holding it till pickup." The words hit harder than he expected. His shoulders dropped, the cookie tin suddenly heavier in his hands. The rain outside blurred the windows like tears he refused to let fall. Stood there, frozen. For a moment, he wasn't 13. He was just a little boy who'd tried so hard and failed. And then, the bell over the door jingled. If Ethan had looked up right then, he might have noticed the way the air shifted, the way the cashier straightened, recognizing the figure stepping inside. But Ethan didn't move. He just stood, eyes fixed on the empty spot on the shelf where the oven used to be. A soft voice broke through the silence. "Hey kid, what's wrong?" Ethan turned slowly, and his breath caught. Standing there, soaked from the rain, wearing a simple black hoodie and jeans, was Justin Bieber. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be. Justin Bieber, in this hardware store, on this rainy afternoon. The man in front of him looked different than the polished images on magazine covers. His hoodie was damp, his sneakers spotted with mud, and his face, famous yet somehow familiar, wore no makeup, no bravado, just a quiet curiosity and eyes that seemed to see more than they should. "What's wrong?" Justin asked again, his voice softer now. Like he wasn't just asking, to be polite, like he genuinely cared about the answer. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it again. What could he say? That his world had just crashed over a missing oven, that he'd saved for weeks and it still wasn't enough, that his mum, the woman who made life feel okay even when it wasn't, was about to have another birthday with nothing. But somehow, the words came. "It's for my mum," he mumbled, barely above a whisper. "Her birthday's tomorrow. I was going to get her an oven. She always wanted that one." Justin tilted his head slightly, his eyes flicking to the now empty shelf, then back to the boy. "She sounds pretty special." Ethan nodded. "She is." "What's her name?" "Lily." Justin smiled. Not a showbiz smile. A real one. Small. Warm. The kind that made Ethan's chest feel a little less tight. "Well, Ethan..." Justin said the boy's name like it was a secret password. Something sacred. "We're not leaving here empty-handed. Not for Lily's birthday." Before Ethan could react, Justin turned and headed down the nearest aisle, gesturing for Ethan to follow. "Come on," he said. "Let's find something else." Ethan hesitated, unsure if this was some kind of elaborate dream. Then his sneakers scuffed against the linoleum floor as he trailed behind. Justin moved with a calm confidence, scanning shelves as if he were shopping for someone he deeply cared about. He paused at a display of wooden baking tools, hand-carved rolling pins, matching sets of measuring spoons, whisks, and spatulas. "Does she bake a lot?" he asked, running a finger along the smooth handle of a rolling pin. Ethan's face lit up, just a little. "Yeah, all the time. Cakes, cookies. She's amazing. She just doesn't have the right stuff to make it easier." Justin picked up a few items, weighing them in his hands, nodding as if mentally picturing Lily using them. "These are solid," he murmured. She'd like these. He turned to Ethan, holding out the set. What do you think? Ethan stared. At the tools, then at the price tag. $50. His heart sank. I don't have enough, he said, stuffing his crumpled bills deeper into his pocket like they might disappear. I've only got 42. Justin gave a small chuckle and waved it off. Don't worry about it, he said, already walking toward the counter. This one's on me. Ethan's jaw dropped. He wasn't even sure how they got there so fast. 1 second they were staring at rolling pins, and the next, Justin was pulling out his wallet, handing a crisp $100 bill to the cashier, who was now gawking at him like he'd seen a ghost. Wrap it up nice, Justin said casually, and give the kid some change for his trouble. The cashier stumbled over his words, fumbling with tissue paper and tape. Justin stayed cool, focused only on Ethan. So, he said, leaning casually against the counter, tell me more about her. Lily. Ethan shifted on his feet, surprised by the question. She's the best, he began. And then, somehow, the words just kept coming. She works so hard. After my dad died, it's just been us. She never complains. She makes everything okay, even when it's not. Justin nodded, his expression softening. Sounds like she's one of those people who keep the world turning. Ethan blinked, something swelling in his chest. Gratitude, maybe, or something more powerful. Hope. When the package was finally wrapped and handed over, Ethan clutched it like it was made of gold. Thank you, he whispered. Justin crouched down, again meeting his eyes. No need to thank me, he said quietly. Just promise me one thing. Ethan nodded, wide-eyed. Tell her it's from you, and from someone who thinks she's raising a hell of a kid. Ethan tried to blink away the sting behind his eyes, nodding again. But Justin wasn't done. You live far from here? Couple miles. Justin grinned. Perfect. How about I give you a ride? Make sure this gets to Lily safe and sound. Before Ethan could protest, Justin was steering him toward the door, the gift tucked carefully under. The boy's arm. Outside, a modest black SUV waited at the curb. Nothing flashy, just practical, like the man himself. Justin opened the passenger door and motioned him in. Hop up, he said, then slid into the driver's seat. The engine hummed to life as Ethan buckled in, still stunned. Now, Justin said, glancing over with a smirk, tell me more about those lemon cakes. As the SUV rolled through the quiet, rain-slicked streets, Ethan began to talk, not just because he was prompted, but because for the first time in a long time, someone truly seemed to care. He talked about the lemon cakes his mum made every Sunday. Light, sweet, with just a hint of tartness. How she whistled when she was really focused. How her cinnamon rolls filled the whole house with a smell so warm it felt like a hug. Justin listened, really listened. One hand on the wheel, the other resting casually near the gear shift. He nodded, smiled, occasionally asked questions that made Ethan dig deeper. Not just about the food, but the woman behind it all. Then, as they approached a red light, Justin turned and asked, "What's her dream?" The question stopped Ethan cold. "My mum's," Justin nodded. "Yeah, if she could do anything. No limits. What would it be?" Ethan thought for a second, then another. The answer had always been there, tucked away in quiet corners of conversations and wistful sighs. "She wants a bakery," he said finally, voice barely above the rain tapping on the windshield. "A real one, just hers. But she says it's silly, that we can't afford it." Justin didn't speak right away. His eyes stayed on the road, but something in his jaw tightened. A flicker of memory, maybe, or understanding. "It's not silly," he said, quietly but firmly. "Not if it's hers." They pulled up in front of a small, weathered house with peeling paint and a crooked porch light. Ethan shifted nervously, suddenly unsure if bringing Justin Bieber into his modest home was a good idea. But Justin just looked at him and said, "I'd like to meet her. Let's surprise her together." Ethan hesitated, then slowly opened the door. The smell of fresh-baked cookies met them at the front steps. Lily's signature, always baking, even when the budget didn't make sense, even when the power bill was due. Inside, the house was small but warm. Ethan stepped in first. "Mom, I'm home. And someone's with me." Lily appeared from the kitchen, wiping flour-dusted hands on her apron. Her dark hair was tied back messily, cheeks flushed from the oven heat. When she saw who was behind, her son, she froze. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God!" Justin smiled and offered a small wave. "Nice to meet you, Lily. Ethan's been telling me all about you." She looked from her son to the pop star, then back again, blinking like she couldn't quite believe it. Ethan thrust the package into her hands, his cheeks burning. "Happy birthday, Mom. It's from me." Lily unwrapped it slowly, revealing the handcrafted wooden baking tools inside. Her breath caught. I don't understand." "How did you—" Justin cut in gently. "He saved up for an oven, but I thought maybe these might work too." Then his voice softened even more. "You've raised someone pretty incredible, you know that?" Tears welled in Lily's eyes as she pulled Ethan into a tight hug. She was still holding the rolling pin as she whispered, "Thank you. I don't know what's happening, but thank you." Justin leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, eyes thoughtful. "I ran into Ethan at the store, heard a little about you, and your dream." Lily's face changed, like a shutter snapping closed. "Oh, that. I mean, it's nothing really, just a silly idea." "Doesn't seem silly to me," Justin replied. "Seems like the kind of thing the world needs more of." Before she could answer, he added, "There's someone I want you to meet." He pulled out his phone and dialed. A moment later, a sleek black car pulled up outside. A man in a crisp suit stepped out. He had a clipboard, a calm demeanor, and a filmmaker's eye. "This is James," Justin said. "He works with people who tell stories that matter. He heard about you and he's got an idea." Lily looked overwhelmed, like she was being swept up in a current too fast to understand. "A documentary," James explained, "about you, your journey, from home baker to bakery owner. We'll cover the startup costs, all of it, if you're willing." Lily's knees nearly gave out. She clutched the edge of the kitchen table. "Why would you do this for us?" Justin stepped forward, voice low but steady. "Because I know what it's like to be given a chance, and I think it's time someone gave you one." Ethan grabbed his mother's hand, eyes bright. "You can do this, Mom. Please, say yes." Lily looked at her son, then at Justin. The moment stretched long and quiet. Then she nodded, and just like that, the spark of a dream began to catch fire. The next morning, their quiet little house didn't feel so quiet anymore. Trucks rolled in just after sunrise, vans with camera equipment, boxes of tools, crates of supplies. James returned with a small, agile film crew and a few friends from Justin's team. They didn't arrive with fanfare. No shouting, no makeup trailers, just rolled up sleeves, clipboards, and quiet nods. And just like that, Lily's yard became a construction zone. Ethan stood on the porch, watching in awe as wood beams were unloaded and paint cans were stacked. A chalkboard sign leaned against the steps, barely visible under the morning dew. On it, someone had scribbled in looping cursive, "Lily's Bakery, coming soon." He turned to his mom, who had stepped out onto the porch barefoot, still in her robe. She blinked at the scene, trying to take it all in. "They're building it, Mom," Ethan whispered. "Right here." Lily didn't speak. She couldn't. Her heart was racing too fast, too full. The days that followed blurred together. She spent mornings planning with James, sketching ideas for the layout of the tiny shop, choosing soft yellows and warm wood accents that reminded her of her grandmother's kitchen. The afternoons were filled with hammering, sawing, painting. Ethan helped wherever he could, passing nails, holding ladders, fetching water. The film crew captured everything. Lily laughed the first time she saw a boom mic hovering above her head, while she rolled out dough on the picnic table. "You really want to film this part?" she asked, wiping her forehead. James smiled behind the camera. "Especially this part." Word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. At first, people came out of curiosity. Then came the murmurs. "She's getting a bakery for free. She doesn't even have business experience. What makes her so special?" Lily heard. Them. Every careless whisper, every sideways glance. One evening, as she kneaded dough late into the night, Ethan found her staring at the ceiling, her fingers still dusted with flour. "You okay?" he asked gently. She forced a smile. "I don't know if I'm enough, Ethan." He didn't answer right away, just sat beside her and placed his hand over hers. "You've always been enough." The next morning, Justin returned. No camera crew, no assistants, just him, driving the same beat-up SUV, wearing the same hoodie. But this time, he wasn't alone. 3 people stepped out behind him, 2 women and a man, all in crisp white aprons, faces lit with calm confidence. "Friends of mine," Justin said, resting a reassuring hand on Lily's shoulder. "Professional bakers. They're here to help. Sharpen your skills. Take your recipes to the next level." Lily blinked. "You think I need help?" Justin smiled. "No, I think you deserve it." That afternoon, her kitchen transformed into a workshop. For hours, flour dusted the air like snow as the chefs worked alongside her. They didn't lecture. They encouraged. They didn't change her recipes. They honored them, refining techniques, showing her shortcuts that kept the heart of her food intact. Justin stayed too. He rolled dough beside Ethan, listening, laughing, softly, completely at ease. The camera crew filmed some of it, but Justin waved them off for the rest. This part wasn't for show. This was family. By nightfall, Lily's hands were steadier. Her voice was surer. Her smile, no longer tentative, shone with pride. "Thank you," she whispered to Justin as they cleaned up the mess. "I don't know how to repay you." He shook his head. "Don't. Just bake. Just dream." Weeks passed. The tiny bakery took shape. Warm wood panels, a curved front counter, shelves lined with jars and baskets. Ethan painted the front door. Himself, a careful shade of blue his mum had once called her happy colour. Then came the big day. A hand-carved sign swung above the door. Lily's Bakery. The air smelled of cinnamon, fresh bread, and nervous excitement. The whole town had gathered, some curious, some skeptical, all watching. In the centre stood Lily, clutching Ethan's hand, her heart hammering. "Ready?" Justin asked, appearing beside her like he'd always been there. Lily nodded. Together, they cut the ribbon. The crowd clapped, the cameras rolled, but it was the film, played on a makeshift screen in the yard, that truly silenced them. Grainy footage of Ethan in the store, Lily in her kitchen, Justin handing over that first gift, their journey laid bare. Imperfect, raw, and full of heart. When the screen showed Lily pulling her first loaf from the new oven, tears streaking her face, the audience grew quiet. Ethan looked at his mum. Her eyes were bright, proud, alive. Justin stood beside them, silent. But the curve of his smile said everything. The crowd surged forward, not just to congratulate, but to buy bread, cookies, rolls, whatever was left. By the time the sun set, Lily's shelves were empty. Her hands were tired, but her heart had never felt so full. And Ethan, he looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time, not just as his mom, but as a dreamer who dared and finally got to fly. The smell hit first. Warm cinnamon, buttery pastry, the faint zest of lemon glaze, floating through the air like music, like memory. It wafted through the crowd, gathering outside the little yellow bakery, drawing people closer. Some came because they'd heard the whispers. Others followed the scent. but none of them expected what was waiting behind that blue-painted door. Inside, Lily stood behind the counter, her hands trembling. But this time, not from fear. She wore her best apron, freshly washed, a pale green that brought out the flecks of gold in her eyes. Ethan stood beside her, dressed in a clean white shirt that didn't quite fit. He'd grown fast these past few months. His smile was proud, unshakable. The ribbon outside fluttered in the breeze. James adjusted his camera one last time. The rest of the film crew stood ready, catching every angle. But this wasn't about footage anymore. This was about a moment, the kind that happens once in a lifetime. Then, just before the ribbon was cut, Justin arrived. No grand entrance, no flashing lights. He simply stepped out of a quiet SUV and walked up the path, hands in his pockets, his signature hoodie zipped halfway up. Ethan spotted him first and beamed. "You made it!" Justin winked. Wouldn't miss it for the world. He took his place beside Lily and Ethan. Together, the three of them held the oversized scissors, hands overlapping. Lily drew a breath, tears already forming in her eyes. 1, 2, 3. The snip echoed. The ribbon fluttered to the ground. The crowd erupted in applause. And just like that, Lily's bakery was open. Customers poured in. Neighbors, teachers, curious onlookers. The shelves, once fully stocked with fresh bread, cookies, muffins, and delicate little pastries, were empty within an hour. People weren't just buying food, they were buying hope. They were tasting the sweetness of something earned. Outside, James set up a makeshift screen on the lawn and queued up the final cut of the documentary. As the sun dipped below the rooftops, families gathered in folding chairs. The sky turned pink, then violet. The film began. There was Ethan, standing in that hardware store, looking so small, so uncertain. Then Lily, in her kitchen, her face tired, but kind. Justin handing over the first wrapped gift. The moment Lily said yes to the impossible. Each scene built on the last, a story of heartbreak, persistence, kindness, and transformation. When the final frame faded to black, the crowd was silent. A few sniffles broke the quiet. A single clap, then another. Soon the entire yard was filled with thunderous applause, not for fame or spectacle, but for something real. Lily looked down at her hands. They were still dusted with flour, still shaking, but she didn't hide them. She'd earned that tremble. Justin stepped up beside her, gently placing a warm roll into her hand. "You did it," he said simply. Lily looked up, her eyes brimming. "No," she whispered. "We did." But Justin shook his head. "This is yours." He stepped back, melting into the crowd like a shadow disappearing at dusk. But Lily saw the smile he wore, the same one he'd carried since day one. The one that said this had always been the point. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Lines wrapped around the block. Journalists came. Local papers ran headlines like "From Flower to Fame" and "The Star Who Baked a Dream." But Lily stayed grounded. She hired 2 part-time employees, young women from the neighborhood who'd been struggling to find steady work. Their laughter filled the kitchen now, blending with Ethan's, as he sketched ideas in a small notebook. Stories, short films, dreams of his own beginning to take root. One rainy afternoon, the doorbell jingled softly. Lily looked up and smiled. Justin was back, no cameras, no press, just him, a hoodie, a quiet smile, and a soft request. "1 chocolate chip cookie," he said. "The kind you made that first night?" Lily laughed. "Coming right up." They sat near the window, rain streaking down the glass, reflections blurring in the misty grey. Lily handed him the cookie on a napkin. No fanfare, no speech, just warmth. Before leaving, Justin slid a folded piece of paper across the table. Lily opened it later, once the crowd had thinned. Just a few words, written in quick, messy handwriting. "The world needs people like you too." Don't stop dreaming big. She pressed the note to her chest. Later, she handed it to Ethan. He read it slowly, then looked up at her, eyes wide, heart full. They didn't say anything. They didn't have to. Outside the window, raindrops traced, paths down the glass. And in Lily's hands, tucked safely beside the register, sat the wooden box of baking tools. The first gift. The one that started everything. The bakery wasn't just a shop. It was a symbol, a promise, that dreams, no matter how small, deserve a chance to rise. Under the golden glow of a fading evening, Ethan and Lily stood side by side at the bakery's front window. Outside, the last few customers wandered off with warm bags in hand, laughter trailing behind them like echoes of something magical. Inside, the lights dimmed low, the smell of bread still lingering in the air. And on the counter, nestled in a small wooden box, were the baking tools, the very first gift. The quiet beginning of something neither of them could have imagined. Lily reached out and ran her fingers along the smooth handle of the rolling pin. Her touch light, but reverent. It wasn't just wood anymore. It was memory. It was sacrifice. It was everything that had brought them here. Ethan leaned against her shoulder, watching their reflections blur in the misty glass. "Do you think this is real?" he asked softly. Lily smiled, not the weary, uncertain smile of a mother doing her best, but the confident, grounded smile of a woman who had finally seen herself through someone else's eyes, through her son's, through Justin's. "I think this is just the beginning, because the truth is, this wasn't just a story about kindness. It wasn't just a celebrity doing a good deed or a poor boy getting lucky. This was about what happens when someone sees potential where the world only sees limits. When someone chooses to believe in you before you believe in yourself." Justin didn't just give them money or tools. He gave them permission to dream, and that changed everything. But the story isn't over. The bakery is thriving. But now comes the real challenge: growth, sustainability, and navigating a world that isn't always kind to dreamers. Lily's journey isn't just about survival anymore. It's about legacy. And Ethan, he's starting to tell his own stories, camera in hand, heart wide open. And Justin, he hasn't said goodbye. He's still there. In quiet check-ins, surprise visits, and handwritten notes tucked into flour sacks. A silent partner in a dream that keeps rising, one loaf at a time. So here's the question we leave you with. What would happen if you gave someone a chance like this? A push, a spark, a reason to keep going. What if you were someone's Justin? We want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What did this story make you feel? Who in your life is your version of Lily or Ethan? Have you ever been saved by kindness? And most importantly, stay tuned, because Lily's story is far from over. In the next chapter, we'll follow her as the bakery expands, challenges grow, and decisions must be made that will affect not just her and Ethan, but the entire community. Subscribe, like, share this video with someone who needs a little hope today. And remember, all it takes is one act of kindness to change everything.